You know, when we think about slavery in America, our minds often go straight to the brutality, and for good reason. But that's not the whole story. Today, we're going to look at something else. This isn't just a story of survival, it's a story of creation. So let's dive in. Let's explore the incredible, resilient world that enslaved African Americans built for themselves. A world within a world.
Wow. I mean, this quote, it just gets right to the heart of it all, doesn't it? It's about taking something from the world of the oppressor, the words from a sermon, and completely transforming it. It's about finding that light, that shining through moment, and turning it into something beautiful and powerful, something that belongs to the community, a spiritual.
And that's really the key takeaway here. They didn't just endure slavery. They actively built a world inside of it. We're talking about people forging a unique, powerful culture under conditions that were designed to strip away their humanity. It's this incredible mix of African heritage and the new, harsh realities of America.
So, where do you even begin to tell a story this big? Well, I think we have to start from the inside out. We're going to start with faith, because it was in the spiritual world, in the world of belief, that some of the most profound acts of creation and resistance really took hold.
So to set the scene a little bit, this is all happening during a time called the Second Great Awakening. You've got these evangelical preachers, Baptists, and Methodists all over the South. Now, from the slaveholders' point of view, this was great, a perfect tool for control. But enslaved people, they saw something totally different. They saw an opening.
And this is where things get really interesting. It's a process called cultural synthesis. Think of it this way. They didn't just take the Christianity they were given and swallow it whole. No way. They took it and they stirred in their own West African traditions, their music, their beliefs, and they created something completely new, something that was uniquely their own.
So you can see here, it's like two completely different religions using the same book. The slaveholders version, it's all about obey your master, original sin, stuff that keeps people down. But the Black Protestantism that emerged, that was a faith of liberation. It said we're all God's children, and it latched onto stories of freedom like Moses leading his people out of slavery. You can imagine how powerful that story would have been.
And this quote, it just says it all. This is a real-life example of them rejecting that oppressive version of Christianity. This wasn't just them quietly disagreeing. Nope, they stood up and walked right out. It's such a powerful image, right? A physical act of saying, that is not our God. This faith is ours and we will define it.
And this blending of cultures wasn't just theological, it was physical. It was in their bodies. Take the ring shout. Okay, so they're told no profane dancing. Fine. So what do? They create this incredible form of worship, moving in a circle, clapping, stomping. It draws directly from African traditions. It was a way to praise God that was powerful, full of joy, and absolutely 100% African American.
So that powerful inner world of faith, it became the bedrock for everything else, especially family and community. I mean, the whole system of slavery was designed to tear families apart. But just like with their faith, what we see instead is this unbelievable story of resilience and rebuilding.
Okay, get ready for this number, because it's pretty mind-blowing. 1 in 41. That's the rate of marriage between cousins on one plantation where half the people were related. Just let that sink in. They held on to their own cultural rules, in this case strong taboos against incest, so powerfully. And what's wild is that marrying your cousin was totally common among the white planters who owned them. It just shows you whose culture was holding strong.
And since the law wouldn't recognize their marriages, they basically said, fine, we'll recognize them ourselves. They created their own ceremonies like jumping the broomstick, which comes from West African traditions. And this wasn't just for show. It was a serious public commitment. It told the entire community, we are a family, even if no piece of paper said so.
But what about when those families were inevitably sold apart? Well, that's when the community became the family. They created what we call fictive kin. So if you were sold to a new plantation alone, an older woman might take you in as her niece, or a man as his nephew. They literally rebuilt the family from scratch. It's more than just survival. It's a defiant act of love, refusing to let slavery destroy the fundamental human need for connection.
All right, so we've seen this incredible internal strength, this strong community. But it wasn't just about feeling good. It was fuel. It fueled a quiet, constant, daily resistance against the entire system. A constant negotiation for a scrap of power in a world that gave them none. First off, we got to understand that not all slavery looked the same. You had the gang labor system, think cotton or sugar fields, which was just brutal, sunrise to sunset work under constant watch. But then you had the task system, especially on rice plantations. Here, you were given a specific job for the day, and if you worked hard and finished early, that time was yours. It might not sound like much, but that little window of freedom was everything.
And no matter the system, they were always fighting back, slowing the work pace, accidentally breaking a tool, pretending to be sick. Now, you might think of that as just slacking off, but it wasn't. It was a calculated strategy. It was economic warfare. Every broken tool, every hour of lost labor hit the owner's profits. And sometimes it went further. Arson, even poison. It was about taking back a tiny bit of control.
And remember that window of freedom from the task system? Well, they used it. They built a whole underground economy. They'd have their own gardens, raise their own chickens, and then sell the surplus. They'd even negotiate to get paid for overwork. And this was so much bigger than just earning a little pocket money. This was about asserting a right, the right to own something, to profit from your own hard work.
So that's a glimpse into the world they built within slavery. But what about those who were legally free? What was their life like? Their story is so important because it shows that the fight for real freedom didn't just end if you got off the plantation.
By 1860, you're looking at nearly 500,000 free African Americans. That's not a small number. And here's the kicker. They were split pretty much 50-50 between the North and the South. Half lived in the free states, and half lived surrounded by slavery.
But that word, free, it needs huge quotation marks around it. Look at the North. Sure, you're not a slave, but you can't vote, you can't go to public schools, you're stuck in the worst jobs. It was, as one person put it, being a slave in the midst of freedom. And in the South, you might be a respected artisan, but you could be kidnapped and sold back into slavery at any moment. So, what did freedom really mean? And what did they do in response to all this? Exactly what enslaved people did. They built their own world. If you're shut out of white schools, you build your own. If you're shut out of their churches, you create your own, like the incredible AME Church. They created their own support systems, their own institutions, their own communities. So, when you put it all together, you see the big picture. This culture that was forged by both enslaved and free African Americans, it wasn't just a reaction to being oppressed, it was a powerful, defiant act of creation. They built faiths, families, and communities that were a lifeline for millions. And that really leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? How does a culture that was born out of so much resistance and so much creativity, how does that continue to shape a nation's identity, even today?